I started acting when I was 6 years old, so I grew up always being an actor. I mean, I started at such a young age, you know. But yeah, so I mean, now I've been doing it for nearly 30 years. Well, actually, it's a very funny story considering that also at this particular convention, Brooke Bundy is here. Brooke Bundy used to be my agent from 1992 until 96. And when I signed with Brooke, she got me an audition for Rookie of the Year. My previous agent had already had me go in on that project. So I told her, hey, it's all right, I already went on that show. She said, well, they obviously don't remember you, so go again. So it was because of Brooke Bundy that I got that job. It was amazing to work with such a great cast on Rookie of the Year. And also, you know, slightly intimidating. It was my first lead role in a feature film. And here I was with all these amazing actors. It's funny too because at the time, you know, I hadn't seen like Apocalypse Now because I was only 12. But then, you know, watching that film later and realizing that my manager, you know, the Cubs manager, was in that one. Anyway, so cool to be a part of so many, or, you know, to work with so many good people. Yeah, actually, they didn't film. They filmed with John Candy 3 months after we wrapped production. No one even knew he was going to be in it until the film was done. So no one met him, unless besides David Stern and whoever was in the scene with him. So we did a PSA about a year after the film together, and that was the first time that I got to meet John Candy. He was the nicest ever. I mean, hung out for a while in his studio, and my mom and him, you know, talked for like 2 hours, and I played video games with his son. Baseball is a huge sport with a lot of fans, and so it makes sense that people would make films about it. Rookie of the Year, I think, though, is a special one because it sort of represents, you know, every kid's fantasy of playing on a major league, but not in the future, but now. And so it just sort of speaks to everyone in that regard. So it's amazing to me, though, still that 20 years later, the thing is still spinning on cable, and you know, people are still enjoying it and showing it to their kids. It was a little odd. I mean, luckily, for myself, I was never really on the cover so much of the team mags, sort of just in the inside.
Centerfold.
Maybe, yeah, centerfolds, which sounds really wrong. But you know, it's always a bit surreal when you see yourself when you're grocery shopping and you see yourself on a magazine at the checkout. So I try not to think about it too much. I gotta have some form of normalcy, so I just ignore it. I mean, I personally, when I first read the script, I turned down the audition because I thought that it was too risque. It was only when I read the complete script that I realized that there was a lot of art in it. So that was what I felt I brought to the story. And I think, you know, not to say that it's definitely something that we all did together, but that's certainly what I brought to the table, and that's my part in all of those films, and what kind of separates us from the other teen sex comedies. You know, each one was different, just depending on who was, you know, directing it, and you know, I mean, certainly the current sort of fond memory is the fact that we all got back together, and that I found out that everyone sort of appreciated the film as much as I did. I didn't know that they had as much nostalgia for the franchise as I did, and I think we kind of all thought that of each other. So it was really like our own reunion in real life. Pumpkin pie is my favorite. That's like the only pie I really ever eat.
Then you're in season now, that's great.
Yeah, I know. I'm excited. Pumpkin pie is about to be on my table. You know, I just love to create, whether it's creating music or creating a character or now I'm producing films as well, so it's creating the entire film from the ground up. I love it all. So it's all a different details in the work and a different reward at the end for, you know, finished product. So I just kind of try to do all. In fact, I'm sort of doing all this month because I'm working on a new album. I've got, you know, a couple of concerts that I'm playing shows at. I'm producing a film and I'm starring in the film. So it's sort of like October is always like my favorite month because I inevitably end up doing everything that I love in that same month. No, I haven't. That's a pretty funny one though. It really wasn't. I mean, it stems more from my wife. My wife's name is Colette. She wanted to pick a French name because her name is French. She's not French, but she was named after a French author. And we wanted to pick a name that was no one that we knew. So I don't know any other Nolans in my life who's ever been friends with this author. So that was sort of like why I was like, yeah, that one. So we can create this new person, this new personality. But yeah, with his middle name being River, some people accidentally call it like, oh, that, you know, your son, Nolan Ryan. I'm like, no, it's Nolan River. You know, up until about like 2 months ago, I would have dissuaded, but I am starting to get the indication that he might have the tenacity for it. I know he's only almost 2, but we did this bit on Vine that got featured on the Tribeca Film Fest site where we were both doing our impersonation of De Niro for De Niro's 70th. So, you know, I do De Niro from like Analyze This and he does De Niro from Taxi. And the fact that I could get my son who's not even 2 to say a line on cue, you know, you got one shot on Vine. So he was the one-take wonder. So I'm contemplating whether or not I'm going to let him go down that path. But at the end of the day, it's really up to him. Obviously, when he's a bit older, for him to decide, and I'll support whatever he decides. Here's my favorite, which everyone's always surprised that I actually did. And I'll do it right to camera. It's the Henry Rowan Gardner.